able to present our next speaker. Jessica Byers comes from First Children's Finance. She has been working with us as a community on how we can improve our daycare situation. And it is a situation. We have a lot of need here in the community, not only Detroit Lakes, as the full county and the full region. And sometimes you think, well, I don't have kids, why does that affect me? Well, childcare really does affect business. If we don't have employees who can't find reliable, close, good childcare, we're not going to have the employees we want to have. They're going to be distracted, they're going to be quitting, they're going to be having issues that are beyond our control. So we know the importance of good childcare here in our community that connects to our school district and all of the other assets that we need. And so we're working as a community to solve this issue, this situation with childcare. And Jessica is going to share with us some good information on the why. Why are we here today? Why are we talking childcare? And then the solutions. What is the community able to do? And how can we solve some of these problems and move that needle forward? So please help me in welcoming Jessica Byers.
I forget how short I am until I have to step up to a mic. Can anyone hear me? Okay. My name is Jessica Byers. I'm with First Children's Finance. I'm the Business Development Manager for our organization. So I manage all the projects and the staff that are on the west side of the state, from Canada to Iowa. And a little bit about First Children's Finance is, raise of hands if you have never heard of our organization before. Okay, so quite a few of you. So a very brief description, because I want to get into the meat of what's happening here in your community. We are a national nonprofit. We're based out of Minneapolis, with offices throughout the state of Minnesota, along with other offices in different states. We focus on the business side of childcare because we know if businesses can't run successful, high-quality childcare programs that earn a profit at the end of the year, they won't be in business. We also understand that childcare programs have very slim profit margins, and so we really look at how can we improve that sustainability of those programs. And we work on 3 different levels. We work primarily with the individual businesses, both centers and family providers, where we look at their business models. We make sure that they are running healthy, high-quality programs and models that they can afford quality. We also work with new models to make sure it's a sustainable model that they're putting forward in your community. And we do that on a variety of levels. We work on community engagement activities, so very much like what I'll be talking to do today, where we pull groups of people together to really understand childcare, understand the need in your community, and to really develop right-sized solutions for the area that we're looking at. And we take all of that information that we've learned from communities and individual businesses to inform the system level, to really understand what does the business side of childcare look like, and really inform those lawmakers about childcare and the importance of it. We look at childcare as an economic tool in the toolbox. And so we know that if there's not adequate supply of high quality childcare available to young families, they don't move to your communities. Many of them will leave the workforce to be with their children, and many of them choose not to have more children because of the lack of childcare. And so we do that in a process. Back in July, we had a competitive application process for communities to apply to a program that we have. It's called the Rural Childcare Innovation Program. It's really a community engagement process to really address the childcare challenges in rural communities and to identify what does that community want to do to help address those challenges. And we do a lot of work with part of the application process is we get together a core team that is local, that has cross sectors represented on that core team to really dive deep in. We know that there's an issue, but how big is it under the water? So we like to look at it as like an iceberg. You just can't jump over the iceberg because you may be the Titanic and sink the ship, right? You may build something that's not a sustainable model for your community. And so we really want to get at the why, what's happening, what size are we actually looking at to identify those right-size solutions. And so some of our work is a lot of data gathering. We do that through a potential need analysis that we do, but we also do a lot of surveys, focus groups, so we get to hear about what are parents saying, what are employers saying, what are actual providers saying that contribute to this challenge. So in Becker County as a total, there's about 648 slots that children don't have access to. We realize when we pull this potential need, we look at families that have children under the age of 6 with all parents in the workforce. We look at it as an economic driver, that it's no longer a parent issue, it's a community issue. And we know that the top 2 challenges that most communities have is housing and childcare. And so we look at it as if our community isn't really looking at this holistically, we're going to have some challenges. And so these are with all parents in the workforce with kids under the age of 5. The reason we focus under the age of 5 is because those are the kids that need childcare on a day-to-day basis and that just don't have other opportunities because they're not in school yet, right? So we break that down by zip code. And so you can kind of see zip code by zip code where the shortages lie. We know how many child care centers there are. We know how many family child care programs there are. We also know that you can't be 100% capacity 100% of the time because kids age, right? They're not an infant forever. And kids don't always go to a child care program for the full amount of time that they're operational. So you can kind of see the gaps in the communities where there are. We also know that children don't stand on street corners saying, I have nowhere to go, right? They're being served somehow. Sometimes it is a friend, family, or neighbor. Sometimes it's illegal, unlicensed care. Sometimes their older sibling is watching them when they really shouldn't be watching them yet. Or they're driving many miles out of the way to access childcare. So we look at a lot of data points because this is only a piece of the puzzle. But at least getting us thinking about what size are we actually talking about? What is the potential of kids that we want to build childcare for? We also want to pull the family child care programs, and we want to look at 2 particular numbers that I want to showcase. Out of the 72 family child care providers, you can kind of see that they're in the category of less than 5 years. 33% of your providers fall under that less than 5-year category. Why is that important? Because that is one of the highest turnover rates of family child care programs. And we know that a certain portion of them, they get into the business because they have no other option. And they realize that it's a lot of work, it's long hours, and it's very little pay. Family child care in rural Minnesota make about $8 an hour after you look at their true income and their true expenses of running and operating a child care program. And they work 10, 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. And then anyone that has an at-home business knows that there's about an additional 10 to 12 hours, 15, to do meal prep, planning, cleaning, all the other stuff, right? They also have no benefits. And so that 5-year has a very high turnover rate for family providers. As economic developers, we also know we need to plan for the future. And so that other big bucket is that 20 years of service. It's a long job, it's hard work. They don't just sit in front of the TV, eat bonbons, and let the kids watch Sesame Street, right? They're in that critical brain-building age bracket. And so these are the ones that are going to be taking less children because they don't want to have a full house of 12 kids. They're going to be soon retiring. And so we need to think about that planning workforce. And then the non-owner and the non-residential is where we see a lot of creative partnerships happening in many rural communities. And I can get into that later. There are 7 additional programs that we pulled out of our data that is actually licensed as childcare centers, but they don't operate the amount of hours that a working full-time family needs. So you look at your Head Starts, your traditional preschool programs that are like mostly in churches where they come every other day or half day a week, and part-time care. So as a working family, you may be utilizing that as a childcare option, but they don't offer the volume of hours needed. We also pulled a lot of quality indicators. So for those of you that aren't aware, there's a program called Parent Aware in the state of Minnesota. It is the quality rating and improvement program that the state has to determine quality indicators. It's a complete voluntary program for the state, and it's a 1 to 4 star rated program. It is not a hotel rating. If you go to a 1-star, childcare program, it does not mean like a 1-star hotel where you may or may not bring bed bugs home. I like to think of it as a 1-star general of their business. It is above and beyond the licensing rules and regulations, and it is a lot of work, and every star should be celebrated, just like a general star status in the Army. And so you can see actually in Becker County, you're higher than the state average in terms of providers going into that Parent Aware program. When we surveyed parents, I just want to show you the top 3 things parents want to have their children in childcare. First, they want it to be a safe and healthy environment. Second, they really want programs that have education and curriculum in them. And the 3 and 4 star Parent Aware rated programs are implementing the same curriculum and assessment tools that any local school district does. And then 3, they really want licensed programs. And so they want that regulatory aspect. They want programs that have that license by the state of Minnesota. When parents are asked why they're not enrolled in paid childcare, their number one reason is expensive. The other reason is that they can't find an appropriate option, and many parents are adjusting their work schedules. So a parent may be working the day shift and then turn around and that second parent is working the night shift. When we pull the market rates, you can see the state of Minnesota has 4 different price clusters, and depending on the county you're in will depend on the price cluster in the state of Minnesota. So when I pulled your county's price cluster, the 75th percentile is what we pulled. You can kind of see how much a weekly rate is in a center, how much a weekly rate is for family providers, and what that annual expense is to the parents. So you can kind of see that it is really expensive for families. We want programs to afford quality, we want programs to afford staff, and again, with all of our data that we've pulled together for families, their true income and true expense is about $8 an hour with no benefits. For center staff, for teacher qualified staff is a 2-year college degree or higher typically. They get paid between $9 and $13 an hour in rural Minnesota with no benefits. And so as you can kind of see that it is expensive for parents, but it's a highly expensive business model to operate on. And we know that there's a local impact for childcare. And so when we pull a lot of data, and this isn't all the data that we've collected, I just collected showcasing some of the highlights, is parents, 33% of the survey respondents said that they either withdrew from the workforce or declined employment due to child care arrangements. That's 33% of people that we actually want in the jobs that we have open, and their barrier was because of child care. And when we look at work issues, 31% said that they've been tardy in the last 12 months because of childcare. 45 said that they couldn't work overtime. 49 was absent from work because of childcare, and 35 couldn't work additional shifts. or different shifts because of childcare related challenges. And that is not a parent issue, that is an employment issue, that is a workforce issue, and that's a community issue, right? We also don't want childcare as a contributing factor for the impact of family planning. So 51% of the survey respondents in Becker County said that childcare has an impact on their family planning. They're choosing not to have more kids, or they're choosing to delay when they want to have kids because of openings of childcare. And you hear this all the time when a provider says to parents, I have an opening for an infant spot in 2 years. They like sign their name, and as soon as it becomes available, game's on, right? And whoever gets it, and everyone else is out of luck, right? And we know that this is true. We have a great quote that I want to highlight, is that their childcare provider doesn't have an opening until 2020. And if you want your kids 1 year or 2 years apart, that makes it challenging on family planning. I know I was a parent. My childcare provider knew what my family planning schedule was before my parents even knew that we were even thinking about having another kid. Right? And we live in a very small town. I'm from Morris, and they go to the same church, and I'm hoping that they don't say anything. So we also know there are reasons why childcare is a challenge in our community. And out of all the information that we gathered, there's going to be more in the report, but as a highlight for today, the factors contributing that we know it's difficult for childcare to be a provider. Just to be providers, it's difficult. There's low wages, no benefits, long hours, high operational costs. Staffing is a huge challenge for centers, finding the staff that has that degree. We also know that affordability and availability is challenging for parents, and we see that time and time again, and a lot of the survey responses were that. There's a lack of resources. To start up is very expensive, to open your doors and to run your business. So are there other additional local resources that we can provide childcare programs? We know that most demand is in infant care, but we also know that that comes at a cost, right? Infant rooms in centers always lose money. It's the most expensive for parents, but it always loses money. I've never seen a center break even in their infant room yet, and I've been here for about 4 years. Same with family providers, right? And we also know that there's a lack of recognition of this career. People treat it, businesses treat it as a babysitter when it's not. It is a career, and these women are highly educated, and they spend a lot of money, time, and resources, and they don't feel like it's recognized or supported as a career in this community. And so we had a town hall where more data than this was actually presented. And we really kind of went through, as a community, what are some of the possible solutions? Because we gathered the data, we know the challenges, but what are the solutions that our community really want to rally around to move forward? At the town hall, we developed a lot of different ideas. We bucketed them into themes, and the core team has been really working on, here's the big themes, what are the actual goals that we can be working on? And now we're working on what are those action steps to meet those goals. And so for those of you that want to think about ways that they can participate, there's still opportunity to do so. But we want to showcase the ideas that are going to be moving forward. So the community, the core team, and everyone else that has ideas are really looking at ways to support co-location of childcare facilities in either faith-based communities, nonprofits, or local businesses. So if you have space that you'd be willing to have a child care provider located or would like to open up a child care program, let us know, because space is a barrier. Many of you don't realize that family providers don't need to be located in their place of residency. They can be located pretty much anywhere to run and operate their business. A small business could hold the license of a family child care program as well. and have that run out of your business. So that's goal 1. Goal 2 is creating career pathways to get more workforce. We know that it's not only a shortage of childcare for parents, there's also a workforce shortage. And so there's conversations on how can we make better pathways for people that are aide qualified to become teacher qualified, and for family providers to really get that pathway to open up their own business and be an entrepreneur, to really kind of identify creating a workforce for these models that we want to build. Goal 3 is to provide an all-day relicensing training at low to no cost for childcare providers. A lot of them, they take online courses in the evening, or they have to go out of town and maybe close early for an evening, or take many Saturdays to attend multiple trainings to keep up their licensing. And if we can find a space, find the resources to bring all the trainers in that they need, they can all get relicensed at the same, they can get all their training done in one day instead of having multiple days. And we really want to take that financial burden off of those providers and see if we can't do this at low to no cost for them. And then the last goal is to really find funding sources, right? This all takes money. It takes money to build, it takes money to support. And so what are those sources? What available subsidies are there in the community? Are there money locally that we can support some of those capital costs of building? And are there money that we can provide some scholarships to get people into that teacher qualified realm for centers? And so if you want to get involved, or if any of these areas think that it could be a good fit for you or your organization, Karen has been our core team lead. I know that she's coming up next. Feel free to connect with her, give your ideas. Feel free to be a part of the conversation, how we can move things forward. If you're interested in really getting your hands dirty and moving these ideas from a great piece of paper to actual action, we do have another meeting on March 26th at Econimic, starting at 3. And then all these ideas are in the final stages and will be in the plan. You'll have access to all the data points, not just the ones that I highlighted today, but there's many more data points that will be showcased in that community solution action plan. And that's what it is. It's a community solution action plan. And you need the community to really roll up their sleeves and move it forward. Otherwise, it's just another great report that will sit on the desk collecting dust. And oh yeah, we talked about that someday, right? And so we're really looking for those people to bring forth those resources and ideas as we move forward. The plan will be located on ruralchildcare.org. If you want to see what other plans other communities have done, you sure can do that. And really, we're in the implementation phase. We realize some of these are short wins. Finding resources to develop those one-day trainings may be relatively quick compared to building a brand new facility. That will take a lot of time and a large amount of money. And so we're looking at the next 18 to 24 months to really move those plans forward. Okay, and that's all I have to share. Any questions, I suppose? Carrie's on the 14 too. Oh, I also want to mention, we hired a new staff member for the West Central Initiative region, and she was able to be here today. And I want to give a warm introduction to Carrie. Come on, stand up. Saddleman, she's local. So you will have someone local to help you with this process as well. And it's her second unofficial first day. So, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jim Boos. I'm president of Goldmark Commercial Real Estate, Fargo-based brokerage company. So I like to say I'm just a dumb realtor, but work with commercial and industrial projects. And I've been doing commercial real estate work for about 23 years, and over that have diversified my activities into commercial development as well. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about here. Just an observation or a comment I wanted to make. I've been involved with community development work in some form or fashion for almost 30 years now. And I can honestly say I've worked in Western North Dakota, I worked in Bismarck, Fargo, and Western Minnesota, and a lot of different things over the years. I've never seen a community the size of Detroit Lakes and Becker County have as many public projects going on at one time before. And I think that's really noteworthy. I mean, the things we've been talking about here today, this is impressive, and I'm telling you as a bit of an outsider, this is some cool stuff going on here. And I think our elected officials and staffs at the county and city should really be proud, and as a community we should be proud, because I think we're really positioning with all of these investments, public and private, for really an amazing future. This is some cool stuff going on, you guys, so we should be proud of this. So Carrie asked me to talk primarily about the Midtown project on Washington, and I'll touch on a few other things that my group is involved in as well. In addition to being a commercial real estate broker, I'm also involved with all kinds of partnerships and different groups of investors. We do projects like this around the region. We've done projects in Fargo, Grand Forks, Fergus Falls, but Detroit Lakes is close to our heart. The partners I work with are all either from here, live here, or have lake homes right in the immediate area, so it gives us a reason to hang out in the lakes area and do a lot of meetings and projects, especially in the summertime. The Midtown project, again, this is the site of what was, I can't recall if there's any old timers in the room, what this was originally called, I can't recall right now, but it was Dedal's, Char House, and then most recently it was Burnside's. And it's been almost 2 years, it was in the spring, 2 years ago that we first started talking about this, and here we are 2 years later, and we're just getting ready to break ground on this project. So that gives you an idea of the timeline and the hours and the work involved in developing a relatively modest project. So again, you probably noticed we tore down the original Burnside's building. We also worked with the adjoining property owner that owned the Quality Bait and Tackle building. All those properties were nearing the end of their useful life. They were tired, as we say. There was probably some code violations, and they were all in need of some work, and really we decided to maximize the economic potential of those sites and do something brand new and something a little bigger. One of the trends nationally is doing more mixed-use types of projects. So in Detroit Lakes, we did the McKinley Plaza project where the Dairy Queen is and Apex Engineering is. And that McKinley project, of course, has about 20,000 square feet of commercial space on the ground floor and 36 apartments upstairs, underground parking. That's the trend nationwide, not only in downtown areas, but throughout communities. It's trying to mix up uses, integrate living environments with work environments so that people don't automatically have to get in your car and drive all the time. People can walk more. You can live upstairs, work on the ground floor, walk across the street to a coffee shop, that type of thing. We were going for that same type of thing with the Midtown project here. First of all, I'll say I can promise you when the building is built, it will look a little jazzier than this image that's on the screen right now. I acknowledge this looks a little bland. That was just a scan off of a blueprint. So, 4-story building, no underground parking on this project because the water table is too high here. But we will have 30 apartment units on this project here and about 10,000 square feet on the ground floor. It was a very tight or compact site. It was very challenging to get all this to fit in there and to make all the numbers work from an investment and a construction, and then trying to hopefully make a little money at the end of the day on this deal. So we feel excited about this project. The apartment rental market is strong here. All of our other rentals are full or operating, at 95%, which is good. The commercial component is a little trickier. We were a little nervous building 10,000 square feet on a ground floor, basically on speculation, just hoping that a tenant or a couple of tenants comes along. But we did, I guess I'll be the first to publicly announce that the entire ground floor of this has been leased. Sanford Health has signed a lease for the entire ground floor. They can speak more to that, to what they intend to put in here. The only thing I was authorized to say is they intend to bring a new service into town. Healthcare accessories will occupy a portion of the ground floor of this building. So that is, I guess it's retail, but it's health services, O&P things, wheelchairs, all that type of thing. And again, Sanford can speak to what their plans are for this, but I think just logically their main facility across the street has probably reached its capacity, and they want to keep growing with the community, and to be right across the street in a brand new building, I think they were very intrigued with that. So I know from my partners and our lenders, they're very happy when we have the whole building pre-leased like that, so it takes a little pressure off. So this building will start construction here this spring. We're just finalizing the bids that are coming in. We're finalizing the permitting process and should get going on this. And it should be a really nice addition. It's been well received by most of the neighbors, and it should be a really nice addition. So I'll talk a little bit about a few other projects as well. Two other ones I'll highlight. The Norby's building. It was obviously kind of sad news for all of us when a long-time local business such as Norby's winds down, kind of ran its course. We had a lot of meetings last summer with Mike Norby and the family, and we were kind of brainstorming with them. They were throwing ideas at us what we could do to repurpose basically that block. My partners and I have done other projects on that block, so we were interested in continuing to enhance that block because it helps preserve our investment that we've already done on that block. So we ended up buying the Norby's building, and we actually didn't close on that till just January 2nd here, just 2 months ago. But we had been in the building demolishing things prior to that. So the Norby's building, our architects came up with a really cool plan to really restore that Norby's building back to what it looked like 80 to 100 years ago. My partners and I like downtowns, we like historic buildings, we like preserving communities. We're not the kind of people that come in and intentionally tear stuff down. So the Norby's is an example of trying to do a preservation. And I will also tell you that trying to do a historic renovation on a 100-year-old building is much, much more complicated than going out and building a brand new building on the edge of town. There's risks and unknown things all over the place when you start digging into the bones of a 110-year-old building, and we're already finding that in the Norby's building. It's not an easy task, but the Norby's building we'll kind of repurpose that back to what it was originally. Upstairs will be 13 apartments, really cool, quirky apartments, market rate apartments. The ground floor will be restored into as best as we can to the original storefronts, again, as it looked 100 years ago. We're a little unsure what the front of that building is going to look like when we tear off that 1959 brick facade that was put on there, which I think was really cool at the time. And I'll just say I think it looks horrible right now. And we're a little unsure what we have underneath that when we tear it off. So again, there's uncertainty there, but the goal is to restore that as close as we can to how it looked originally. So we are actively looking for ground level tenants for the Norby's building. The project itself has been named the Norby Flats. Family gave us permission to use that name as a point of continuing the legacy of that name in the building. So flats is just another word for apartments. So again, 13 apartments upstairs. We have street level space available. It could be one big tenant. It could be as many as 5 or 6 small or medium-sized tenants. We are actively negotiating and working with several prospects right now for that space. I'm open to ideas. I like brainstorming on things. Feel free to track me or my partners down if you have any ideas or are interested in learning more about leasing a storefront in that building. But I think, and again, when that's done, that'll just be a tremendous enhancement to the downtown experience and getting all those storefronts back to really how they probably should look. The third project I'll highlight is a little bit quicker one. This is the North Shore Travel Plaza over in front of the new Spitfire next door to the Holiday Inn and where the new boat ramp is going. We organized a group of partners that just bought that here on January, well, I guess it was December 31st we bought that. And when we bought that property, we inherited the actual convenience store, gas station, car wash. Well, I don't know anything about running a convenience store, gas station, car wash, so we ended up flipping that or selling that simultaneously. When we bought the property, we sold the convenience store gas station to a different operator. It's the same group that operates the facility on Highway 59 and Highway 6. The name escapes me, I'm sorry, but they will be, we just wrapped up renovations of that store. I think I go in that store fairly regularly, and again, I think people would agree that both the building and that convenience store were getting a little tired, a little dated, needed a fresh look. And so now with both a new landlord and a new owner and operator of that business, we just finished all kinds of renovations, And when the weather warms up, if the weather ever warms up, we'll continue to do some renovations on the exterior of that building. We have some new tenant or tenants that are likely going to be transitioning into that building, so we're real proud to again enhance that property in that part of town. And my plug on that one is I think that gas station car wash opened a year ago, so there's my plug. Go check out the new gas station car wash. I think it's really looks nice in there. So I can stop there. I'm hanging around the room here. Feel free to grab me afterwards. I love talking about this stuff. So I will wind down right there. I'm hanging around. Love to chat with you. So thank you.